Welcome all to another episode of Working Title. It's been a bit, but I'm back. Not out of the loop. I am back. And as we're getting started, as always, if you've seen the show before, I'd just like to invite a few friends in on this to get some exterior opinions than just myself. I mean, I do love talking to myself, but that's not the point. I do like talking to myself. I got a new roommate since the last time you saw me. I replaced David with Darren. I don't know if it's an upgrade or not, but we'll find out, I guess. So really excited. Got a lot of topics that we're going to touch on today. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Typically do this. Going to start doing this at 6 p.m. on the Sundays just because there's football. I got a lot of friends that we're nerds, but we're also football fans. I'm watching Dallas just house in Jacksonville right now. Nobody really saw that coming, so that's fun. Ruins several people's pick'em leagues, including people that are watching right now, Dan and Paul. So welcome all. So first thing we're going to start off, not really like anything deep diving, but since the last time I was doing the show, they've released some information, not information on the Joker, but they've released pictures of Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts on that. So the Joker. All right. So it actually doesn't come out until next October, and I always get a little nervous when we get all these details so early. It typically, to me, it shows that the studio doesn't have a ton of faith in it, and they're trying to over promote. So, hey, Boston, how's it going? I don't know how to feel about it. I'm super excited about it because I really am looking forward to a Joker origin. We've never had like a solid origin. And honestly, even though we're getting it in movie form, I'm still not going to treat it necessarily as the done deal. I'm kind of still going to go with the Joker's origin is kind of unknown. And that's what DC does, is they kind of just throw random things and then it's canon, but it's not canon. It's weird. It's how DC does things, kind of weird like that. Let's see here. Darren says they're just pictures. I'm not impressed. Okay. Fun topic. Anybody else? Anybody at all? Fine, I'll talk, I guess. I, unlike Darren, actually like them. Not like super impressed. I'm not going to say like, oh my gosh, it's going to be awesome. Just based off of how he looks. I think it's a little different twist on it. Something to keep in mind, I think it's an origin story. So I don't know if he's fully hashed out his look yet. There's been pictures released of him. He obviously wants to be a clown of some sort. This is set in the, 80s or something. Maybe clowns weren't ruined for all of us yet with the movie It or the original series It. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, I like the way he looks. He definitely does look. He looks less sinister, but somehow it makes it worse almost. I don't know. Dan says he looks like Bill Murray with the makeup on. Okay. What specifically, a certain Bill Murray? I don't know. Anyways, it doesn't matter. Paul says, I think it'll end up being more artsy than a superhero movie fans want. But that's the thing. Do fans want a superhero movie? Because I don't want a superhero movie. I want a Scorsese movie with the Joker. That's what I want. Like, I want like a legit crime boss movie where the boss just happens to be a little off his rocker and puts clown makeup on. That's kind of what I'm looking for. So again, origin, so it's makeup. I'm not going to get overly fanatical about it. Joaquin Phoenix, I am excited about him just as because he's got a lot of range. I'm not going to lie. Guy's got range. So he can pull it off. Looking forward to that. So moving on to my next topic. So recently we got season 2 of Iron Fist, and then even more recently it was announced that Iron Fist is going to be canceled. It's not getting a season 3. I didn't watch season 2, but apparently it ended on a semi-cliffhanger. They were potentially looking to do some different stuff with that. So I'll talk about that a little further. But I do have a question for you guys as well. Question is, we all, obviously, most of you, if not all of you, are going to have Netflix or some streaming service. What is a show on Netflix or another streaming service that I definitely need to watch, and or something that I definitely need to avoid? So I'm looking for different shows. All right. So obviously, like I was saying, Iron Fist is getting canceled after 2 seasons. That being said, Netflix reps did say that Iron Fist would live on. He's most likely going to make cameos. They're probably going to have a second season of The Defenders at some point in time, so he'll most likely be in that. Darren said, couldn't finish season 1. It took me 2 tries to get through just season 1, and I basically forced myself to watch the first season. It was not good. Like IGN gave it like a 4 something, which is bad, and a lot of other people that rate things that I respect were giving it really low marks. I started watching season 2. Apparently season 2 was better, and I might eventually watch it, but I think I only got through 2 episodes. Honestly, basically ever since Marvel's The Defender universe, their first 3 seasons were pretty awesome. That includes 2 seasons of Daredevil and the first season of Jessica Jones. Those 3 seasons are pretty spectacular. Season 2 of Jessica Jones is pretty good, but not nearly as good as season 1. Luke Cage is just okay in my opinion. Apparently season 2 of Luke Cage kind of sucked. So, I mean, and Defenders was just okay as well. So we'll see where that goes. I'm excited for season 3 of Daredevil. I like they're introducing new villains again. We're going to get Bullseye in this next iteration, as well as the Kingpins coming back with Vincent D'Onofrio being one of the better villains in the Marvel Universe in total, in my opinion. So, getting a lot of people messaging in on what I should see. Dan says Letterkenny. You are correct, Dan. Letterkenny is the shiz. That show is funny. Dan also says Mayans. Paul saying the Americans. I tried the Americans once. I should try it again. I'm the type of person where sometimes I do need to try stuff more than once. Darren got me back on Superstar recently, which I am definitely 100% a sitcom person. And sometimes those sitcoms are they look cheesy, and then you got to do a little bit of deeper dive to really appreciate the humor and stuff like that. I own 9 seasons of Big Bang Theory, Darren. I'm not gonna say it's great. I think it's fun. It's okay. I like the nerdiness of Big Bang Theory probably as much, if not more, than the humor. All right, Mayans. I'm not gonna lie, Dan. I'm probably not gonna watch that. I didn't even finish Sons. So, Darren says I need to watch Friday Night Lights. And avoid the CW. Oh man, I tried watching Arrow, I tried watching Flash, couldn't do either of them. I might try to get back into Gotham again. I might try it. Soup, you can try to talk me out of that one if you want. Soup was an interesting individual when I first met him. He couldn't not watch things, even if they were garbage. And I think we broke him of that. But he finished Gotham, or he was watching all through Gotham and just hate watching it. It was funny. But I just like the Batman universe so much. I know they're just going to bastardize it, but I don't know. I don't really care. All right. Friday Night Lights. I've been told about 1 million times I need to watch Friday Night Lights, so that might, I'll actually write that down. I have a list going. Soup says Iron Fist was fine. People are too hard on it because Jessica Jones and Daredevil were so good. Season 2 was solid, but didn't like the ending. I mean, after watching season 1, it did take me 2 tries. I didn't hate it. It just didn't have staying power. It didn't really have the thing that's grabbed me and wanted to keep me there. And yeah, you're going to have that symptom of if something's really, really good and you have something in a shared universe that sucks, you're gonna compare the two. It's just natural to do. Is Thor 2 a good movie? even as a standalone. Like, I think if it as a standalone movie, it wouldn't get much hate, but it's in the Marvel universe. So, you know, that's why it gets that. Soup says, don't do it, Gotham. I'm going to do it. I'm going to force myself through that struggle. I watched through the first 2 seasons, I think, something like that. Paul also says, watch The Newsroom. I've seen the first clip of The Newsroom, and like that speech from, what's his face? Harry from Dumb and Dumber. What's the main guy in Newsroom? Jeff Daniels. Thank you. I was going to say Jeff Goldblum, and I immediately knew that was wrong. Jeff Daniels, like that speech, initial speech is one of the best, like, few minutes of television. But I haven't watched beyond that. So, I was going to pitch to you guys some show ideas as well, since you kindly pitched some show ideas to me. Letterkenny was one of them, so thank you, Dan. That show, again, is the shiz. It's so funny. It's hard to explain. It's a really cheap sitcom comedy, but it's so quick-witted, and it's actually fairly smart, and it's just the dynamics of the characters work really well together, and yeah, it's just good. Letterkenny is on Hulu. Definitely watch it. Another comedy, most of these are going to be comedies, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Great show. Horrible name. It's on Amazon Prime, but it's a great show. It's about a housewife in the 50s who breaks the norm and goes into comedy. And something you got to understand is, like, there was no female comedians in the 50s. Stand-up comedians, like, it just didn't happen, you know. There was one here and there, but she's like breaking this norm, this foundation. It's not like this poor kid in the Bronx growing up. She's actually comes from a wealthy family. It's just, she is hilarious. She is a great actress. Did she win for, like, I hope she won an Emmy. She's phenomenal. It's funny, but it's also realistic. And it's just overall a good show. I think the cast is really awesome. Brockmire is another one. It's on Hulu. You need to watch that. It's about a down and out baseball announcer. Is that what you call him? Announcer? Baseball announcer who went from the big time to went to nothing and then comes back, is trying to make a comeback. It's Hank Azaria, freaking hilarious. That's one of the shows I probably quote the most recently. And then finally, a Netflix original called Travels with My Father. It's got a comedian, Whitehall from London. He's an English comedian, and he goes on travels with his older father, who's very prim and proper British. It mixes comedy, travel show, and I think it's a fun watch. It's something definitely that's a little more chill afternoon watch, something you don't have to sit and watch completely. Oh, Paul was way behind on this. Mindhunter was the shit. Mindhunter, I'm super excited for season 2. That's got to be coming out here sometime. I would say, you know, later this year, early next year, Mindhunter season 2. Mindhunter was a great show. Definitely suggest watching that. Netflix original as well. It's about, when was that set? In the 70s? Late 60s, early 70s? When the FBI really started to do their crime division on serial killers. Very interesting psychological show. All right. So thank you very much for answering my question there. I very much appreciate it. I do have a poll out. I don't know if anybody saw it. I don't know how it's... Oh, I didn't publish it. That's probably a problem. All right. I just published it, so if you want to join in. So the next topic is James Gunn has been signed on to write and potentially direct Suicide Squad 2. So the poll question is different than a question I'm going to ask you guys directly. Will James Gunn fix Suicide Squad? That's the poll question if you want to hit that up. But something that I didn't notice until I read this article, and I thought this was very it was not talked about, and it should have been. This is very, very big. So studio sources say Gunn is not developing a sequel. Again, very, very big here. Gunn is not developing a sequel, but a brand new take on the DC property, which features DC villains Deadshot, Harley Quinn, the Joker, Captain Boomerang, and Killer Croc, who are forced into service of the government in exchange for lighter sentences. It's unclear whether or not that means recasting in part or wholly the actors. So I had heard about this, and it was very interesting to me because that's a big deal. Like, that is DC finally turning the ship around, the garbage ship that they have been sailing for the past 6 years. Dan, I don't know why you're upset with this. Get on the new DC ship, man. This is good news, not bad news, in my opinion, at least. Soup might disagree with me and join your side, but I think the majority of us are thinking this is good news. So that being said, I do not think they're going to wholesale restart. I think it's going to be like a soft reboot or relaunch, or maybe a soft sequel. So the question I have for you guys is, okay, whether it be big or be small, what would you like to see James Gunn do differently? So one thing, my thoughts on this is, obviously Gunn was famous for directing the 2 Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Now, my issue with that is, do you really want Suicide Squad to feel like Guardians of the Galaxy? To have very little... I mean, I love the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, but do you want to have like very little substance and just humor and you know, not very much... You never feel scared in Guardians. Like, and I'm not talking about like scared like in a horror movie. Like, there's nothing at stake in Guardians of the Galaxy, it feels like. You know, you're pretty confident that they're gonna win. Like, I want something at stake with Suicide Squad. So let's see. And another thing I had is, like, so most of you guys think James Gunn will fix Suicide Squad. And I'm perfectly fine with that, but I kind of disagree at the same time, because David Ayer in the original one, he wasn't the problem. David Ayer had a clear vision. Now, if you don't know, David Ayer is most famous for directing gritty and dark cop movies. So he did Training Day, he did End of Watch. I think he wrote, did he direct Furry? The tank movie, Fury. So Soup says, please don't turn Suicide Squad into Guardians of the Galaxy. And I agree with that. Suicide Squad should not be Guardians. So, like I was saying, David Ayer was not the problem. He had supposedly a very dark, grim idea of what Suicide Squad was supposed to look like. And then the studio, Warner Brothers and DC, came in and were like, no, that's not what Marvel does. Marvel is light and fun and gets the kids involved. We don't need the kids involved in DC. So they tried to lighten up, and Suicide Squad felt bipolar because of it. You'd have these dark, gritty scenes, and then you'd have these stupid comic scenes and blah. So I like the James Gunn hiring, as long as he recognizes that Suicide Squad should not be Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, I think he's got enough range as a director to do that. But that being said, will he fix it? It's kind of a loaded question, because I don't believe the studio won't step in and try to finagle it to how they want it and ruin it, just like they've done pretty much every movie outside of Wonder Woman to date. Now, some other points that I wanted to bring up is Dwayne Johnson is actually rumored to cameo in this as Black Adam. So that's kind of cool. But to answer my own question initially is, what would you like to see done? Here's a few things I'd like to see done. Recast Killer Croc, first of all, or do motion capture. He was the guy, he was in Lost. I can't remember his name. Recast Killer Croc or do motion capture. Dave Bautista has been outspoken and says he really likes James Gunn and he would love to be cast in Suicide Squad. Cast Dave Bautista as Killer Croc or Bane. That's fine with me. But I thought Killer Croc in the comics is enormous and like intimidating and kind of freaky. Like in Suicide Squad, he was like this gangster crocodile that wasn't very impressive and kind of looked crappy in my opinion. Another thing is I want to see is be consistent on the tone. Whatever the tone may be. As Soup said, don't make it Guardians of the Galaxy. I would prefer Suicide Squad be a campy, funny Guardians of the Galaxy-esque movie as long as they stayed consistent with it. Because Guardians of the Galaxy, in my opinion, is better than Suicide Squad. So although that wouldn't be my vision for it, I still think it's better than having this bipolar movie that can't decide on what it wants to do. So be consistent on a tone. I personally would like to see a dark comedy tone of like, yes, it's a little more gritty, it's a little more dark, but there are dark comedy aspects to it. These people are criminals. Criminals can be funny, but it's probably going to be darker humor. All right, and then finally have a better antagonist. The villain in Suicide Squad was garbage, so yeah. Soup says, or don't do Killer Croc at all. Yum, I don't disagree with that. Don't cram a bunch of jokes into it. Yeah, I agree. It can have jokes. Movies can have jokes. Movies can have lighthearted moments, but they, like a dark movie, can still do that. Paul says The Rock would be killer as Killer Croc. I don't disagree with that, but he's already kind of signed on as Black Adam. Maybe pay more attention to the movie than the soundtrack this time. Good point. Solid soundtrack, but yeah, they kind of killed that. All right. So the final topic I'll be discussing is Jon Favreau's The Mandalorian, the series he is making for Disney about, his Star Wars series. So questions a little different towards the topic, but The Mandalorian is going to be exclusively on the Disney streaming service, which I think is set to release about a year from now, next fall in 2019. Question for you guys is, will you be getting the new Disney streaming service? Or just talk about streaming services in general. Are you frustrated with the number of streaming services? When do you think we will have a streaming service bubble pop? What do you think? All right, so The Mandalorian. If you guys aren't familiar with Star Wars lore, The Mandalorian is a race of beings from a planet Mandalore that's on the outer rim of the system in Star Wars. Specifically, this is where Jango and Boba Fett would have come from, is Mandalore. So the Mandalorian is based around more or less a lone gunman from that planet. And here's the specific synopsis. After the stories of Jango and Boba Fett, another warrior emerges in the Star Wars universe. The Mandalorian is set after the fall of the Empire and before the emergence of the First Order. We follow the travels of a lone gunfighter in the outer reaches of the galaxy, far from the authority of the New Republic. So, Mandalorian is set about 7 years after Return of the Jedi. So if that would be about, 30 years before the newest series, roughly? Something like that. So here's the big thing, though. They're not cheaping out on this in the slightest. We're talking Game of Thrones money on this show. It's a budget of about $100 million budget for a 10-episode first season. So it could be good, which is cool. Being that it's going to be on Disney, the Disney streaming service, expect it to be it's not going to be super dark, is more or less what I'm getting at. PG-13 is about the darkest you're going to get. And I'll talk about that in a second. So I'm excited for this. I think it's cool. I think we do need to get away in the Star Wars universe. Now, I wouldn't say, this is a weird thing. I wouldn't say this for Marvel. I wouldn't say we need to get away from the main characters and storylines in Marvel. I like the Defenders universe and stuff like that, but obviously the bread and butter is there. I actually think in Star Wars, the opposite. It's such a big universe. There's so many different stories you can tell. and you can even make up, like, I think this is going to be fully original. There's so many different stories you can tell, and it doesn't need to be single movie stories where the storyline is fit into one little nice shell. I do like the idea of making Star Wars more into series, into television series. I mean, just look at Clone Wars television show. What's the new one, Darren? What were you watching yesterday? Resistance. Yeah. So these shows are obviously directed a little more towards kids, but they obviously resonate though with the older adults as well. So I think this is the better way to go. I'm really enjoy seeing this, that they're kind of moving in this direction. I don't know if you guys have thoughts on that. Feel free to talk about it. Dan. Well, DQ says, hell yeah, Disney whales. Dan says, nope. It's getting to be just as expensive as cable, all the streaming services. It's getting there. Yeah, if you get all of them, you know, but cable, even I dealt with Comcast recently, which was super fun. Hard pass. Freaking hate them. I'm forced to using their internet though, which is nice. But there's so many different fees and stuff associated with it. But the fun thing is now all these streaming services, they let you cancel and restart basically instantly. So what I see myself with this is probably doing something like that. Like Darren, if me and Darren are still living together, I'll just mooch off of Darren. But what I see is, if it was me, I'd probably, you know, check in every few months, see if there's a show that I'm really interested in, watch it, and then cancel it. That's probably what I would do. You know, I just canceled Amazon for kind of that reason. Amazon and Hulu have pretty much the same stuff outside of a few Amazon originals. So yeah, but I agree. It's getting kind of ridiculous. So I do think eventually we're going to have this like streaming service bubble pop where, you know, I don't think like Disney and DC and Amazon and Apple and YouTube and Netflix and Hulu, I don't think they can all survive. So what it feels like is eventually, like Netflix, the big ones, Netflix and Hulu and Amazon, they start buying the little ones. They start getting the rights. Like, okay, you know, maybe Warner sells DC to Amazon or something like that. Like, I could see that happening. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying not every single, you know, CBS has all access. Like, I just don't think you can continue doing that. Eventually, cable is going to die. And you can't have 500 different streaming services and expect those to survive as well, at least not at the price point that they're at currently. So another thing I said about this is it depends on the content as well. I've heard different rumors on how Disney's going to do this. I thought a big reason Disney purchased Fox was to get more content to put on the streaming service. But now I'm hearing more recently is Disney's going to try to keep their streaming service more kid friendly. Now that's fine, but you could do like Netflix does and have like a kid section or a young adult section and then adult stuff. Like it depends on the content. If all Disney has is their Disney catalog and then Marvel and Star Wars, like I own a lot of those movies anyways. And Star Wars, the first 6 aren't even properties of Disney right now. They don't even have say over the streaming capability of that for like another 3 or 4 years. So it's interesting. Now, if Disney came out with a service that had like their FX properties, like they had like Always Sunny and Archer and all those different properties, Justified was a good show. And then they had like the Simpsons from Fox on it and you know the 20th Century Fox huge catalog of movies. Oh yeah, you'd better believe I'd buy the Disney streaming service if it had all that. But if it's just going to be like Disney TV and stuff and the movies and stuff I listed off, I probably won't, at least on a regular basis. Paul said you make it sound like the bubble is good, but the bubble will make it expensive. You know, I used to think that a la carte was good too, but a la carte's becoming just as expensive anyways. You are right, though. I do make it sound probably better than it is, because if Amazon did buy like a DC, they'd probably bump up their cost. But eventually we're gonna have cable that isn't cable anymore. It's just gonna be Comcast is just gonna have a streaming service called Comcast Streaming, and you'll just stream shows through that for $60 a month. Maybe there'll be less taxes and fees then. I don't know. But Paul, you're right. I made it probably sound a little better than it actually is. All right. Eventually we end up with Disney and Netflix. Hulu's going to stick around because the rumor is that Disney won't bring the more adult content onto the Disney streaming service, but Disney is now going to own about 60% of Hulu or 40% of Hulu or something like that. So they'll put more of the adult content onto Hulu because Fox, who had a share in that? It was Fox, NBC, and ABC owned Hulu together. That was their streaming service. Well, and Disney was a part. Well, Disney owns ABC. So there it is. So it was Disney, whoever owns NBC, Universal, I think, and then ABC is owned by Disney anyway. So now Disney owns like 2/3 of Hulu. They'll put more of their adult content on there. Okay. Something's going on. I don't know. That was about it for me. We're about a half hour into this, which is normally what I like to keep it at. I kind of rambled there at the end. No worries though. Happy you all joined. I need to get some of this off my chest. I've been gone for a while. I'll try to keep it fairly normal, but especially throughout the football season and things like that. Talk about what? Glass. The Glass. I don't talk about trailers too much. I am excited for Glass though. Glass is going to be good. It makes me a touch nervous that they're releasing it in January. Typically January is kind of like the dumping pit for true story. I don't know. I'm excited for it. I've heard that as of today as well, like the first clips of Hellboy have been released at like New York Comic-Con or something like that. Really excited for that. It's going to be an R-rated Hellboy with David Harbour as Hellboy. Super excited for that. So look out for those trailers. Also, if you guys didn't know, Dan just brought it up. I was just going to mention it. The teaser for Aladdin was recently dropped. I'm waiting for a full trailer on that before I make a decision. I'll probably see it anyways. I am kind of excited that Will Smith is going to be the genie. So Aladdin's coming up, and when does they got to be through filming, or at least close to it, with Lion King as well. So that's probably coming up in the near future. But yeah, looking forward to those things. Check them out if you haven't seen them. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap it up for the evening. You guys have a good night. Again, this is Working Title. If I'm going to be on, I'm going to be on at 6 p.m. on Sundays. So I'll see you then. Thanks. Bye.